first time your parents called you a big girl was when you were just about 3 and you made pee-pee in the potty all on your own. The second time was the day you rode your bike without the training wheels. But one of the weirdest moments in a girl's life is when your mom exclaims, all emotional, "You're a big girl now," when she sees you in your first bra.
There was no indication that Camille would go into puberty early when she was only 9. Absolutely no warning signs, nothing. In fact, she was very slender. She didn't have much shape at all. She was still a little girl.
In elementary school, I was like an alien. I didn't fit the image that the other girls had of themselves. I didn't see myself as being all that different. I didn't understand what was happening to me until, as I got older, I realized I had more of a figure.
When she was 9, Eve-Marie had a huge growth spurt over the summer. Then one day she came home and she said she'd been playing ball at school and had gotten some kind of bump. We were concerned and we wondered what it was. So the next day we went to the clinic. The doctor kind of laughed at me. She said, "Well, it's perfectly normal. It's her breasts developing." And she just turned 9 the week before.
I've had this since I was 2 or 3. It's been mended everywhere. Every single seam has been resewn.
Why do you keep it?
Because I don't want to forget that part of me. My childhood. When my body started changing, I felt gross. As a person, you realize that you're human, that you're alive and breathing, that you have thoughts and a heart. You've known that from the time you were yay high, but this, what is this?
In 1997, a study of over 17,000 American girls found that the age of onset of puberty was plummeting. According to the study led by Dr. Marcia Herman Giddens, girls were exhibiting the first signs of puberty up to 6 months earlier than before. These findings intrigued the international scientific community. Given that puberty lasts an average of 4 years, 6 months is significant.
I think that it's very difficult to understand all the reasons of earlier onset of puberty that are occurring in children, particularly among girls. Our center is one of 3 that are in the breast cancer and the research programs that are scattered across the United States in New York City, Cincinnati, and in the Bay Area, San Francisco. So we wanted to study the girls at ages 6 and 7 because we wanted to try to catch them before they started going into the process of puberty. But we found that several of the 7-year-old girls already had gone into puberty.
Girls have always gone into puberty earlier than boys, and the disparities seen in the schoolyard can be striking. When the sex hormones begin to kick in, they stir up such a mass of physical and psychological symptoms, it can make your head spin.
Going into puberty earlier is associated with greater risk of obesity. Going into puberty earlier is related to a greater risk of developing insulin resistance and potentially type 2 diabetes and heart disease.
Quand j'étais en troisième année, j'ai commencé à avoir des seins.
When I was in grade 3, I started getting breasts. And then about a week after I turned 10, I got my period. I went to see my mom because I didn't know what it was. I said, "What is this?" And she said, "Well, you're a big girl now."
J'ai commencé ma puberté, je crois, dans les environs.
I think I was around 8 when I went into puberty. I started to get pubic hair. But puberty really set in when I was 9 or 10. It's when I got my first period and when my breasts and hips started to develop. I remember in sex education classes in grade 5, so when I was 10, the teacher asked if there were any girls who started their period, and I was the only one to raise my hand.
I was in grade 4 when I got my first period. It was the last day of school. After that, it was the summer break. It happened on a Friday. I was a little pissed off, and then... At first, I was proud. When it happened, I thought, wow, I'm becoming a woman. But then the hamster wheel in my head started spinning, and then a bunch more started spinning, and you realize it's time to grow up. You don't have a choice. There's nothing you can do.
I got my first period fairly early. I was 10. I didn't understand why it was happening so soon. It was like a stroke of bad luck. I thought it was too soon. I wasn't ready yet, psychologically or physically. I wanted to be at the same stage as the other girls at my school. We should start addressing the topic of sexuality in early childhood. People tend to wait for puberty to hit before talking to kids about it. Instead, we should be warning them, informing them, start them thinking about what's coming. I don't think the color of my skin was ever a problem when I was growing up. On a physical level, I associated my being different with my body, because the other little girls were mostly very slim, very small. And even though I don't have a large build, I did develop hips, curves, and breasts much quicker. So I had a much more developed body than the other girls, who were really little. And I remember that back then, crop tops were in. I went over to a friend's house, a girl my age, who asked me, "Why don't you wear the same tops we wear? Don't you want to be in style?" But I was too embarrassed to wear crop tops back then, because they called too much attention to my body.
Do you remember when you got your period? It became very obvious at that point that she was uneasy about it all because she denied it. I'd say, "Camille, I found your stained underwear." And she'd say, No, it's all right. And I told her, "I think it's your period." No, I don't think so. It was just an accident. But at the same time, you don't want to hurt her or rush her. You want her to accept it.
I didn't want it. It was inconceivable for me not to be normal. At that age, you just want to be normal. You just want to be accepted. And that was just further proof that I wasn't normal. I thought I'd be even more of an outcast if people found out. You want it to stop. I thought I would be premenopausal. It's true. I thought menopause would arrive the next day.
Many studies have looked at the difference by race and ethnicity. And so that we know, for example, in the United States, that African American girls mature before white girls do. Girls who are Hispanic mature sometime between those two groups, and girls who are Asian mature a little bit behind those two groups.
Over the last half-century, the age of first menstruation has dropped by a few months. Better public health and a more varied diet probably account for the change. But is our new lifestyle really healthier than it was before? Lack of exercise, stress, diets that are too high in sugar and salt, and a wide variety of food additives have all become threats to our health. Obesity has become a worldwide epidemic, and young people are its first victims. In the United States, 1 in every 3 girls is overweight. That's why researchers are trying to find out if obesity is a factor in the early onset of puberty.
Girls who are a little bit heavier will sometimes have some fat tissue on their chest, as they have in other places in their body. And so one of the important things is to feel whether or not there is glandular tissue, there's actual tissue in the breast, rather than just fat. And so the best way to do breast maturation assessment is to do both looking at it, visualization, as well as palpation to make sure that it is tissue and not just fatty tissue. We looked at the girls who were obese. We looked at the girls who were non-obese. And what we found was that our girls overall were maturing before the girls that were studied in Herman Giddens. And the girls who were obese matured even before the rest of the girls in our study.
European scientists are also examining early puberty. Begun in 2006, the Copenhagen Puberty Study has been one of the most important research projects on the topic.
In 1997, when the US studies by Marsha Herman Giddens were published showing these marked changes among US children with earlier breast development, we were quite surprised. It has to be the obesity epidemic from US that had crossed the Atlantic, now hitting Northern Europe and Denmark. But actually, the girls that we looked at in our study, they were lean. We did not include obese girls in this study. Their average BMI was very normal, and it was exactly the same as that of the girls 15 years ago. We observed that breast development occurred 12 months earlier. That was the big surprise to us. When we did similar statistics to looking at the age at which you had your first period, what we call menarche, that also occurred earlier, but only by 4 months. It seems as if breast development started 1 year earlier, but periods, which is a late marker of puberty, occurred only 4 months earlier. So it looks as if the period of puberty was sort of extended.
Female hormones are mainly produced by the ovaries. We're talking about estrogen and progesterone. Researchers are concerned that prolonged exposure to these hormones could lead to an increase in certain types of cancer in the long term. In women, we're talking about breast cancer and possibly ovarian cancer. But so far, it has yet to be proven.
If a mother has early puberty, there's a big chance that her daughter will also enter puberty early. So clearly genes are important, but they cannot explain these changes that we observed over just 2 decades, over just 15 years. That has to be something else.
I said to myself, my God, why is it happening so early? Was it something in her food? Are we doing things differently than our parents did back in the day when we were young? Because I didn't hit puberty at that age. I was more like 13 or 14 years old.
Grandma got her period when she was 9, like Sandrine. She was always playing outside with the little boys. They were her friends, and then bang, she got her period, and her mother said, "You're not allowed outside anymore. You'll catch a baby." Catch a baby? That's crazy. I got my period at 13.
You were in grade 7, I think?
Yeah, the end of grade 7.
I was in grade 4.
Grade 4, it's just not fair.
It was 3 months after you. I remember I was at Grandma's and she freaked out because I was way too young.
You were hairy?
At first, we were told not to shave. Shaving is bad.
Mom said, no, you mustn't shave. That's just going to make those nasty hairs stronger. Body hair was like this demon that had to be defeated. You're not supposed to shave. You're supposed to wax.
Body hair is there to filter and to protect. There's a protective element to it. Of course, kids are going to giggle about it when it comes up in the classroom. But all the same, it's important to say the words out loud.
Styles change with the times, and body hair is no exception. Today, it's so unpopular that the worldwide market for hair removal products is close to $5 billion a year. Yet the war against body hair is purely for aesthetic reasons.
We now think that there are environmental disruptors. These environmental disruptors are, for the most part, either man-made chemical agents or natural substances found in some plants. Consuming or being exposed to these substances may lead to earlier changes because they interfere with the process that brings on puberty.
Endocrine disruptors are present in many consumer products, from furniture stuffing to fragrance and cosmetic and household products, as well as plastics made from phthalates. While not all of their effects have been identified, we do know that children are particularly sensitive. In 2008, Canada was the first country to ban bisphenol A in baby bottles. Since then, hundreds of thousands of baby bottles have been taken off the market worldwide. However, many other endocrine disruptors are still in use.
And we found that those girls with the highest phthalate exposure in urine, that they had significantly later pubic hair development. So that was a big surprise to us, but it makes, from a biological point of view, sense.
Endocrine disruptors send false signals to the various sex hormones, which are in part responsible for breast development and the onset of menstruation. The order in which signs of puberty appear has been scrambled. Some signs now appear earlier, others later.
There are several researchers who now feel that these phthalates may also represent a group of chemicals called obesogens. And these chemicals lead to some of the metabolic changes associated with obesity, so that the body becomes less sensitive to the effect of insulin, the fat cells start storing the energy preferentially, and that the progenitor cells get to be predisposed to become fat cells rather than becoming other cells in the body. And so there's growing evidence in animal studies that suggests that these obesogens may be both causing part of the obesity epidemic as well as causing some of these earlier changes in puberty.
In North Carolina, a team of biologists is studying the effects of endocrine disruptors on rats. They're observing the effects in the rodents' brains.
In a rat, we can control a lot of different variables in the environment. We can control the diet, we can control their body weight to a large degree, we can control external stressors, and just expose them to that compound and ask very specific questions about when in development does exposure predict early puberty, and how it actually occurs. I'm a mother, I have a 5th grader, I see all the girls with early puberty in her class. I see it all the time. I want to understand how that's happening, and I want to understand why. We have found that if we expose rats to bisphenol A or other endocrine disruptors right after birth, we can get them to go through early puberty. And there's a conversation between physicians, epidemiologists, basic research scientists, people who work with a variety of animal systems to try and understand if what we see in the animal model may be predictive of what's happening in humans.
Remember, most of these chemicals that we're studying have been introduced into human society over the past 5 or 6 decades. And we've introduced hundreds and hundreds of chemicals in that time period. So it's difficult to know the contribution of each of these different chemicals.
If these effects are being caused by man-made products, let's tackle the problem and see if we can find substitutes or minimize exposure to these products so that young girls no longer exhibit these partial signs of puberty.
At school, if I had a mood swing or was a little more sensitive or whatever, my classmates and friends would be like, Marie has PMS, PMS. It was like a dirty word that was fun to say.
Le gros mot, le fun à dire.
We often see rejection by the peer group. When someone is different, they're often pushed away. This sort of change is upsetting for a young girl. She may lose her friends, or people may talk to her differently, or she may not be invited to things. Obviously, she may then experience anxiety, depression, and loneliness.
Before I went into grade 6, I would get bullied in the schoolyard. They'd throw things at me. I got beat up at the back of the schoolyard by a gang of girls. It wasn't fun at all. I was the biggest outcast because I looked older and because I was curvier than everyone else. They would insult me for not being like them. Basically, I was as much of a child as they were. I had the same interests, watched the same shows, did exactly the same things. Just because my body had changed didn't mean that I had changed as a person. It leaves a mark, because I've had trouble making friends and still do. I don't see myself as someone who makes friends easily. Like, I'm very confident in interviews because I know I'll be able to do the job. But in terms of relationships, even though I'm the kind of person who talks a lot to everyone, I'm always scared of being rejected. I know I'll always have that fear of rejection because that's what I experienced throughout my childhood. That will never go away, no matter what happens. My self-esteem will never be as solid as someone who had a happy, problem-free childhood.
I like two boys, Vincent and Jean-Sébastien, but that'll never happen. He's way too old. Too bad. No, it's not true. I don't like him. I made it up. Vincent is Evelyn's brother, and she's my best friend. School starts tomorrow. It sucks. It's deep stuff. We're attracted to boys too. We start having desires, we want to kiss, we want to touch, we want to be touched. Not in a sexual way, but in an affectionate way. We want to be looked at and admired. I think that's part of it. There's an attraction all of a sudden. We want to be seen, to be visible. That's it. I started to want to be admired. I wanted people to look at me. I wanted boys to show interest in me. I think I like Jean-Philippe, but he has lots of girlfriends. He's nice and kind, and he listens to us. He's a sweetheart. I get good grades after all. No, I can't like him. He's way too popular. And I think the hottest girl in school likes him.
Il y a des gars qui trouvent que je suis plus attirante parce que
There are boys who think I'm more attractive because, well, at my school the girls are all flat-chested. I'm more developed than they are, and it doesn't affect my life at all. I have a boyfriend. We text each other. At night, I'll say, "Good night, I love you," and he'll say, "You too," and he'll send me hearts. I'm taller than he is. About a head taller. Maybe a head and a half. Or two.
We've been in situations where boys who are 17, 18, even 19 will come up to her and I'll say, "Whoa, she's just 12," or "She's just 11." People are taken aback. They'll say, "Really?" "Yes, I know how old she is." That's a little worrying because the girls never give it a second thought. Like most of us, they aren't necessarily aware of the image they project and the messages they send. We have to explain some things about life that we'd rather not have to discuss when they're only 9 or 10.
Given that I didn't have a child's body, I ended up maturing a little faster, too. My mother encouraged me to play kids' games so that I could hold on to my childhood a little longer.
Just because they've reached a certain stage of puberty doesn't mean that young girls are going to rush to use their new bodies, but parents often fear there will be early sexual activity and fear the consequences, namely unwanted pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. That is obviously a major concern for parents.
Young
girls who go through early onset puberty may be at greater risk because older boys will be interested in them. And older boys may not have the same expectations as these young girls do with respect to sexuality and relationships.
Le fait d'avoir un corps plus développé que
having a body that was more developed than that of a 9 or 10-year-old girl, I was instinctively and automatically drawn to people who resembled me, which meant people who were considerably older.
I became sexually active at 13, which is young, because I was curious. Yes, my body might have been ready, but my head wasn't ready at all. I realized as I got older that it was much too early, because psychologically speaking, I wasn't ready. And that's the misfortune of young girls who hit puberty too early. Physically, these girls are ready for sexual experiences. We have the urge that goes along with it. But psychologically, we're not ready because we're also still little girls. We're like the other kids at school with us. We need to stay at first base, playing spin the bottle, French kissing, holding hands, putting your hand in the popcorn at the movies, whatever. It's better to stick to the preliminaries, I think. We shouldn't move to the next step because we don't know our bodies yet. And in terms of sexuality, it's important to know your body in order to appreciate it. Otherwise, you don't understand what's happening.
I think I was 10, going on 11. It was summer. I was with my girlfriend. And there was this boy who was, it's a little hazy, but he was 16 or 17. He was very sexually aware, and he had not necessarily a power over me because he was older, but he knew what he was doing. It wasn't two kids playing doctor, you know? And when my friend left, he asked if I wanted to stay with him. He said, "Oh, I built a shack with my friends in the woods. You want to see it? It's cool. We could talk." And since I was naive, seeking approval, eager to please, I said, "Okay, let's go."
Puis rendu comme là-bas.
Once we were there, he said, "Oh, you're so cute. You must have kissed a boy already." And I couldn't admit the truth, so I said, "Oh, yeah." And that's all it took for him to grab me by the waist and shove his tongue down my throat. From that moment on, I just froze. And then the rest of the assault, if you will. Actually, it was my fault because I followed him. I never asked myself if what he was doing was right or not, because it was up to me to not follow him into the woods. So I never told anyone.
In my mind, I've decided that my first sexual experience was at 17. I wanted to erase the one at 13 because it wasn't positive. I think I was used. I was manipulated in a way. I wasn't raped, but I was used. All the same. I have a family who loves me. I had a great childhood and always felt supported. So you can erase all that from your mind and start over. But it can go the other way too.
I reacted differently from the way other girls who've been assaulted might react. It was a free-for-all in the sense that I became hypersexual. And it wasn't long before I had sex for the first time willingly, and then on and on. And I convinced myself that if I wanted to fulfill my need to please boys or men, I had to use my sexuality.
I think we need to address all the issues related to body image and changes to body image, particularly in young girls. It's important to begin dealing with the issue of female objectification and to show girls that they have value and worth over and above their bodies. Of course, looking good is important. The first thing you notice about a person is their physical appearance. We shouldn't deny the importance of wanting to be pretty, but the problem is when that becomes central, when that's all there is. We have to help girls build their identities using every aspect of what a person is.
La confiance en soi, c'est, je crois, primordial pour avancer dans la vie.
I think self-confidence is essential for moving forward in life. And acting the way I did, giving blowjobs at the age of 9 and 10, having sex at 12, flaunting my sexuality at a very young age, has a greater impact on the rest of your life and on the choices you make than you might think.
Half of children aged 6 to 15 turn to the internet rather than their parents when seeking answers to their questions.
Our young girls don't always have the emotional maturity to properly analyze advertising, music videos, and so on. That's why our children need adults who are sensitive and consistent, who will help them sharpen their critical thinking skills and serve as role models, both male and female, that will allow them to experience their adolescence and puberty in a healthy way.
How old was I? I don't know. 10 or 11 maybe? At a certain point, I became curious. So I decided to get answers to my questions as easily and quickly as I could by going online. Everyone has the internet now, and it's incredibly easy to find whatever you're looking for. So I went to check this sex stuff out because it piqued my curiosity. I don't know what I typed into the search engine, but I came across a short video of 2 Barbie dolls performing sexual acts. And it traumatized me.
I must have been 10 or 11. You remember? I was always online.
Yeah, you chatted with a lot of people.
So I typed, "I'm looking for friends to talk to," And I think I even wrote that I was a girl. Girl looking for friends to talk to with my MSN or something like that. So people contacted me. We'd start to chat. I'd say, "Hi, how are you? What's your favorite color?" Very naive things. And the guy would say, "I'm good. I live wherever. Do you have a webcam?" And it would end with, or some would ask directly, "When will the panties come off? Show me your boobs."
If someone had been a little more subtle, you might have. If he'd said, "I just want to see what color your underwear is, Sandrine." But you had confidence in yourself. Even though you were hung up on certain things, you had nothing to prove. You didn't need to seduce people to get their approval. Your hang-ups had more to do with yourself.
If I got hit on, I would say, "Ha, I'm getting hit on. Bye now."
You took it as a compliment and moved on.
With the combination of early puberty and social networks, there's a real need to educate young girls. Some young girls will upload photos of themselves that can be very suggestive. We have to get them to think about the significance of those images and of their words, to see how these are likely to be interpreted by other young girls and by boys.
I think it's still hard to talk about sexuality in a preventive way. There are a lot of misconceptions. People who say, if we talk about puberty, sexuality, pregnancy, and condoms, that will just encourage them.
There was no sex education at my school. Just one workshop where we talked about contraception and menstruation. I was in grade 6, I remember. They told us about condoms, tampons, sanitary pads, that kind of thing. They wanted to give us an overview, open our eyes to what happens when you reach adolescence, I guess. So, yes, I was able to learn a thing or two then, but it was just a one-day workshop. I don't remember much, just the basics.
What makes it difficult to discuss puberty in the classroom is that people are sometimes afraid of going too far. What I hear in my schools is that it's harder to talk about the psychological changes related to puberty than to talk about the physical changes. Physical changes are just biology. People say, these are the facts. That's the way it is. You can't get away from it. But psychological changes in adolescence can vary from one child to another.
I would have liked to learn more in school. To talk about men and women and what they really feel. Because ever since I was young, what I've learned from the internet and television is that men have no emotions. They just want to get laid. That's it. It's still like that. I'm scared a guy only wants me for sex.
I met my boyfriend when I was 14. It was hard at first. We started dating when I was 14, but I broke up with him twice. Our real relationship started when I was 15, and we've now been together 4.5 years. He really helped me get through high school and with my self-esteem. I didn't think I was pretty. Didn't think I could have a boyfriend. I wasn't comfortable with who I was, not in terms of my body or my personality. He's the one who helped me understand myself better and learn how to live with myself. It took a long time. It wasn't easy for him. I didn't understand why anyone would be interested in me. I was convinced that it was never going to work. But he was really patient with me, and he helped me to better understand myself.
Bravo, Alexis! Bravo, championne! T'es fatiguée, hein? Marianne, viens faire le zèbre! J'ai beaucoup cheminé dans les 2 dernières années.
I've come a long way in the last 2 years because I think I hit rock bottom in the whole area of sexuality as a result of all the choices I made.
M'a fait prendre. Puis j'ai suivi une thérapie
Then I took an 8-week therapy program at a psychiatric hospital. And it's not because I was crazy or anything. The therapy was designed to teach you to love yourself.
Puberty lasts several years. It can start at 9 and go to 14. That's a long time for a girl, and she deserves to be supported along the way. I think we need to acknowledge how important a process it is.
I think the main concern, if you from a scientific point of view or as a society, should probably be that something is hitting our children. Something is changing, and it's changing rapidly. They are having breasts 1 year earlier than just 20 years ago, and we simply don't know why. We don't know which agents or which lifestyles that is responsible for this. And I think this is calls for action.
Let's hope that researchers soon discover what causes early puberty, so that girls who experience it can get the help and understanding they need.
Before, I never used to say, yes, I like what I'm wearing today, I look good in it. Things have gotten better, though. I know when I put this shirt on that it looks good on me. I've been told that it brings out my eyes. Feeling pretty feels good. On the road on a sunny day, I don't know where I go, but I think it's okay. I'm far away, but it's okay. I'm far away, it's okay. I'm far away, it's okay. I need to escape. I need to escape. Yeah, I'm on the road, I'm on my way. There's a boy over there, and I think I don't know what to say.
Unfortunately, I think my childhood went by too quickly, and maybe it's partly my fault. I maybe tried to grow up too fast because I sort of had the option of growing up faster. When you're young, you always wish you were 16 or 18. When you're 12, you want to be 16 because being 16 is amazing, but it's not. Now I think my favorite age was when I was 12. I'd like to be that age again. It went by too fast.